Have you asked yourself, am I rotating too early or too late? Sometimes your team over rotates and the enemy team ends up faking you guys out. Other times you rotate too late and your whole team is dead by the time you get to site. I guarantee you that you won't have those questions anymore after this video. I'm Konpeki and I've climbed from silver to radiant in episode 1 and I've hit radiant in multiple acts, while also coaching thousands of players to hit their dream ranks in the last 3 years. In this video, I'll be going over the exact thought process that radiant players go through to decide whether to commit to a rotate or not, and I'll break down how radiant players decide what type of rotation to commit to once they've decided to rotate. And real quick, my hope is that you use these lessons to rank up and maybe someday soon partner with me and my team to help you hit Immortal and beyond inside of our 8-week live coaching program. We have a 5 division rank up guarantee in 8 weeks, which means if you don't rank up 5 divisions in the 8 weeks that you work with me and my team of Radiant coaches, you'll get a full refund. There's only 6 spots remaining for the next season, so use the link in the description below to speak with me or my team to see if you'd be a good fit for each other. Without further ado, I hope you share and enjoy. The first step to understanding rotations is having the ability to distinguish the difference between what site pressure looks like versus an actual commit. When you're about to rotate, you first want to think, are they trying to end on that site? Sometimes the other team is going to want to rush the site, and sometimes the other team will be more spread out, looking to get picks or to take map control. You'll want to have different plans in mind depending on which it is. To determine whether the other team is going to rush or spread out, you'll want to, number 1, look at the number of players that your teammates can see, and number 2, look at how much utility the other team uses and how much of that util goes through the choke point. If you see 5 players, you can always assume they want to hit the site. If you see less than 5 players, then you can ask if they're playing fast or slow in the area that you expect them to split through. For example, if you see 3 players in A main and 2 making noise in mid, we can assume it's a hit. If you see 3 A main again, but the rest of the map is quiet, it's probably just pressure. Next, with the location of their utility. If you're seeing a lot into the main, but only the main, it's probably pressure. As soon as you start seeing utility thrown through the choke point, it's most likely a hit. Recons onto site, flashes through smokes, or players dashing out are cues that it is undoubtedly a hit. One of the most trustworthy ways to read a hit is if you see their lurker in the group. If their Cypher or perma-lurking Reyna is with them this time, then it's a special occasion. Expect a hit. Now, step 2. So how do we react after we know what they're trying to do? When we feel like a hit is coming in, you need to decide if you should get to the site or if there's another play you can make. Until you have a read on the enemy team that you're confident in, you should stick to just getting to the bomb site. In this case, you need to figure out if the fast or slow route will be the best. Some other plays you can make would be to fast flank or look to catch out the lurker if they have one. For example, let's say your team has been lurked on a few times in a row. Make it your goal to kill them instead if they're predictable. In another example, you're retaking and it feels like they're playing everyone on site, or maybe they don't have a sentinel with tripwires. Go for that fast flank. To put this all together, imagine you're playing A main on Haven and they're hitting C. Most of the time, you'll just be going straight to C. But if you saw 3 instead of 5 and you don't want to risk the fight on B, go through spawn. Do they like to lurk? Make it clear to your team what you're doing on comms, then fight down mid. Use any utility you have and look for that lurker. When you see pressure but you don't think they'll hit that site, your goal needs to be completely different. You want to look at the info that the enemy team gave you from their default and think about what plays you can make based on it. If you take one thing from this video, if you're only seeing pressure, you don't leave your site. You can and should change how you play the site, but until the other team commits to a bomb site, the area that you started in remains your responsibility. Let's think of playing A on ascent and the enemy team is pressuring B. In this situation, you can move over to short so that you can move faster into mid or through spawn if they do hit B, but you can also still hold A. Let's think of all of the other reactions we could have in that same example while we're here. If you think the enemies are going to come back to A, you can get a deep line in A main. This is especially strong when you have an operator. If you have a teammate who's easy to play off of or your duo playing with you, you can make these plays based on the other team's tendencies. If they have players who like to get aggressive alone, you and someone else could try and look for a 2v1 together. If we see heavy B pressure, at least 3 people, then making a play into mid with your duo would be a brilliant move. As long as you're using utility to get into mid, the outcomes for us are going to help us win the round. Are they there? We get easy frags. But if they're not there, we now have all the info we could ask for. If they go into B, we have a fast rotation, and if they come back, we have a good position. Now, the third step to mastering rotations is understanding how team comps affect your rotations. If you have strong utility on the site, for example, a Sage, Killjoy, Raze, or KO, then your rotates don't need to be as urgent. If you're really confident in the util you have on site, even if they're trying to commit, you can play that as if it's just pressure, predicting that they'll get stopped and have to run back. If your team doesn't have strong utility on site, for example, they're holding with the Jet and Reyna, then your rotation needs to be much more urgent and faster. In these situations, consider canceling any plays that involve flanking or looking for lurks, and take riskier rotate paths so that you can get to the site faster. Take their team comp into account too. If their comp sucks at executing, for example, they have no mobility duelist, so they have Sages, Reynas, Chambers, etc., then you can be a bit less urgent. But if they have good agents for executes, you can be a bit faster. Everything we discussed was pretty general. Now I want to get into the fourth step, which is something more specific and advanced. How should you think about rotating when the timer is getting super low? As the timer in the round gets lower, the attacking team will feel more and more forced to make a play. That makes sense, right? If they run out of time, they lose. Keep this as a rule of thumb. Simple. If the timer is getting low, you're expecting a hit, but your team doesn't have much info, then making a play instead of rotating can be extremely effective. So back to the A main example again. Time's getting low and the enemy team's gonna hit a site soon. Using utility like flashes or reveals to take A main will lead to one of two outcomes. One, enemies are in there getting ready for a hit, and with the util you use to take this space, you'll have plenty of favorable fights that you can easily win, and you get earlier info for the rest of your team to rotate before enemies are forced to commit to the site. Two, they're not there, and now you have the info you can use to rotate with, and you could safely stack the other site or even take a deep line. For the fifth and final step in this video, we'll talk about some higher elo secret sauce. This is much more common in pro play, but you can easily take this concept for ranked games. If the other team plays with any discipline or structure, they'll play around their utility cooldowns. People like to wait for their initiator to return online before hitting a site. Most of the util you use to hit sites have cooldowns of 40 seconds. If you feel that the other team is playing together, you can pick one of these cooldowns, track it, and make plays around it. For example, if Sova instantly darted at the start of the round, his next cooldown will be at the 1 minute mark. Ranked players don't like wasting time, and if they're already grouped up waiting, they'll be dropping that utility when it comes off cooldown. The easiest way to get value from this is to first identify if they have a habit of using the utility as soon as it comes back online. If the first condition has been met, you can look to make plays with your team if the util is close to coming back up and the map is quiet. So push one of the mains with utility. They're either there, ready to be killed, or you clear it and can be ready to defend the other site. Remember though, with this last concept, this is only going to work if the other teams are playing well off of each other. If they're just running around and having fun, don't worry about it too much. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.